I also live on the 3000 block of Indiana, and have been a part of the neighborhood association for almost 20 years now. So, Don, you want to go next? I think you're on mute.
Mute. All right. Sorry, guys. I got muted. I'm Don Morgan, president of the Benton Park Neighborhood Association. So I am representing our board and officers. I live in the neighborhood. We built a house here. I own a couple of rental properties. My wish for this kind of a meeting is for people who are landlords to be able to have a good rental property, for people who are tenants to be able to have a good space to live in or work in, for businesses to be in the neighborhood that are good for us all, and for the neighbors who live around buildings to be comfortable and happy and understand what the deal is, and for everybody to kind of agree to whatever the terms are and abide by them. So I don't know all the super details of the history here. I know a little bit about what that some neighbors had concerns about noise and such. So Dan and Tim, who you'll meet in a minute on the building review, we all wanted to just put everything out on the table and let everybody understand what Julia is trying to do here, and hopefully it will be something we can talk about. So I'll pass it along to Tim for the building review committee.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Don. As Don introduced, I also have been a member of the Benton Park Neighborhood Association for a number of years. I've actually been chairing the building review committee since 1999 was my first year as chair. So, and we have a committee of volunteers, ranging from 6 to about 16 people, sort of depends on what the topic is, requiring input. So we review building architecture modifications, as well as we'll prepare letters for the zoning department where a special or a conditional use hearing has occurred, and it allows the neighbors to impose on the business use that is non-complying specific conditions. And I would say most of the businesses in the neighborhood have a conditional use support from the organization. So that's all I have.
So Dan, do you want to take over?
Yeah, Julia, want to go next, and then Julia, just kind of, I guess, if you want to speak a little bit about the past issues with the building, and then what you're planning to do, what your idea is now for kind of the businesses that are more kind of office, and just kind of introduce yourself. So, and then just run through the other people on this call in any order.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Ho. I have been living in the city of St. Louis for about 10 years now, mostly in this general area, like Benton Park West. I live in Dutchtown now, and I'm a homeowner in Dutchtown, and then this building, which is owned by my family. So we purchased the building in 2017, and I'll admit at the time we had never done something like this before, and so there was a lot, both because I'm not from St. Louis and not as familiar with some of the permits and occupancy issues. Our original vision was just to create a space for to support small businesses and to provide kind of a workspace for particularly entrepreneurs and businesses who maybe aren't ready to have like a whole brick and mortar on their own, but also don't want to be working in their homes. So kind of like that middle point between, whether it's having a personal studio for an artist or having an office space for a business. And so over the years, it's evolved quite a bit. For a long time, we didn't have a dedicated tenant on the first floor, which is a lot of why we, naively were like, well, let's just host events there because that will be a good use for the space. And, of course, at that time, we didn't do our due diligence in making sure that we had the proper things in place and also the support from the neighborhood to do that. So that in turn caused a lot of tension and a lot of, just a lot of neighbors, feeling disturbed by the events that were happening here. So since then, we've gone through processes with the city. We've learned a lot more about what is acceptable to have here, what isn't. We've gone through the process of supporting the tenants that have stayed here through all of this to make sure that they have their business licenses and their permits and all that. So as of 2020, particularly, pretty much since March of 2020, we shut down the event space from notice in the city, but also, COVID was happening then too. So we weren't feeling safe having events anyway. But, we still wanted to make sure that the first floor could be something that would be acceptable to the neighbors and also be suitable for supporting our mission. So that's whenever we connected with Studio 2020 folks. Leonard here had actually already rented a small office in our second floor. It's just right here. For a few months to do just taxes and accounting. And so he connected us with Naisha and Ed, who had a vision for using the first floor space as a way to support their business, which they can speak more about. So that kind of takes care of the event, just the event space as a whole. We're not doing that anymore. We don't plan on doing it again. We really want to have sustainable businesses that, like I said, are not disturbing the neighbors. And then on the second floor, we have Keisha here, who runs a brand. She has a clothing brand that she uses as an office space here. And then there were previously also some concerns about another tenant we had here that was sort of almost like a boutique, but they've since moved out. There was also a massage therapist on the third floor that was causing some concern. She's moved out as well. So at the moment, the only tenants we have in the building are the folks here, Ed, Naisha, and Leonard, who are on the first floor running Studio 3020. Keisha here on the second floor with her business. And then on the third floor, we are in the process of trying to get the conditional use for Daryl, who again, is just kind of, he's sort of just running as an individual and wants a space to be able to do his recording and music production. So that's pretty much where we're at now. We do have the only unoccupied space at the moment is our second floor, that larger space that was formerly a boutique. Like I said, it's empty now. And so we wanted to make sure that we were, on the same page with the neighbors and the neighborhood association before trying to move anyone into that space. And we want to, again, ensure that it's something that is acceptable for everybody. So that's kind of what's going on at the moment. And I guess if any of the tenants, if you all want to just say anything about what you're doing specifically, or we can come, answer that in later. So I guess maybe just introduce yourself too. So whoever wants to jump in.
I'll go ahead and go. I'm Keisha. I'm the owner of the Woke brand. The Woke brand is a small business. We are geared towards expression through clothes, poetry, and events. I originally moved into this space with the idea of obviously having access to the event space. So that is something that drew me to the space naturally, because our business, we conduct these get-togethers and different types of artist events. And since then, I have been able to successfully still manage there, even on the second floor. I originally moved in on the third floor. And so now it's more about just our artistic writing and our expression through clothing and apparel. I started off doing this about 4 years ago. So I have now been with you guys at this space for over a year. I know that because I've signed, I guess, the second lease. And I just really don't want to go back home. I'm now into my space, and this is necessary for people like me because, I mean, you made a great point, Julia. We are in those moments where we don't want to be at home and run a business from home because we have outgrown that space, but yet we are not ready for the brick and mortar of our own. So that is, I am on the call en route to keep things going as long as we can in the correct manner, of course. And that's pretty much it. That's all I got.
I guess I can jump in first. On my personal business, I think Julia already talked about it as far as taxes are concerned. That's what I do during tax season. As far as Studio 3020 is concerned, it is a brand consultation firm, which is focused on brand development for small businesses, individuals, individual contractors and artists. Overall, the goal is to help people go from a concept in their mind to developing that concept, whether it be through their logo, through their personal brand. Both my wife, Naisha, and her business partner, Ed, are both photographers by trade. They have their photography businesses licensed in Occupy in other parts of the city. They will do some photography within the space as well. Some of the things that we've talked about, I know we were talking about getting away from doing events and understand that. We have juggled the ideal of doing classes or something like that. The space could also be used for retreats, small meetings and things like that as well. So the overall vision for Studio 3020 is continuing to come to life. It is not a one dimensional company by any stretch. And they're trying to do the best that they can as far as bringing their art to Benton Park and bringing it alive. Both Ed and Naisha are national and internationally known for their work. Edward does a lot of magazines, very high-end clientele, beautiful, beautiful photography and brand ambassadorship that he owns and overseas. Naisha has done the same, taking some culturally relevant issues that we've seen, in particularly as it relates to race relations, African Americans who have been killed at the hands of police, and bringing those things to the forefront and gotten some international press regarding those things as well. So they're continuing to grow. I'm continuing to grow as much as possible as well. Echoing what Keisha is saying, everyone's outgrown their house. It's only so much space in my basement to hold some of the things that my wife buys. I've been in Ed's basement. He doesn't have any more room there either. They both invested quite a bit of money into the space, very beautiful space. Neither of us were able to make it over there tonight. Definitely want to show that off. Definitely want to be great community partners. And I'm going to stop talking so that they can talk, but I do want to address some of the issues that the space has had. They've been leasing their portion of the building since late August, early September. There has not been one complaint that I am made aware of from the way that they run their businesses, from anyone has come in and out. We have had the police called on us. I took a huge issue with that. My wife had the police called on her with my two young children with her at the time, based off of old, outdated information from a neighbor. They're doing everything that they can do humanly possible. Their business is licensed. It is properly occupied. It's going through all of the inspections. We don't expect to have the police call when we're doing renovations. So that's just been a little challenge as far as moving in. We're great neighbors ourselves. We reside in LaSalle Park. So typically, if a business was trying to relocate to LaSalle Park, we would be in a seat that Don and Tim are in tonight, asking the questions about what are you trying to do here? What does that look like for us? So we get this process, and we don't fight the process. However, we do not want the neighbors calling the police on us, and we're not doing anything wrong. Especially if it's for issues that were over a year old that are not relevant to what's going on now. I think that's sort of where I'm at with most of the things. And I'll shut up and let Ed and Naisha talk about their work if they want to, or chime in however they see fit.
Hey everybody, I'm Naisha. You guys have heard that I'm Leonard's wife, and I own a photo booth business as well. And I've been in photography for a couple of years now. Ed and I have been friends since I was 18 years old. He's been photographing me. Back when I used to model is when I first met Ed. So we've been friends for a really, really long time. And this year we decided to go into business together because we both were kind of looking for a space where we could collaborate as artists. And I was just coming off of a high, as Leonard said. I created the Black Fatherhood Project, which has gone everywhere. It's on the Today Show, it's on CNN, it's on Kelly Clarkson. And I felt that I was growing as a business owner. So I decided to partner with Ed. And since Leonard was already in the building over at 3018, once we saw the space at 3020, we decided to act on it. And we got into a partnership and signed on with Julia. And we are so excited to be in the space. We have spent a lot of money on renovating the space. We put blood, sweat, and tears into it. Like when we first looked at the building, it wasn't up to our aesthetics. So we put in new flooring, we put in paint. The inside is painted. The exterior has been painted black. If you drive past, it looks like a new building. And we've just been there. And so we really want to make this a enjoyable experience. Like Leonard said, I am experienced in branding photography. I don't know if you guys have businesses, but when someone starts a business, you want to be able to have the visual to go with it, because that's what people are going to remember. So I do headshots, product photography, inspiration, anything you can think of to help your business. And I also do lifestyle photography. So I just want you guys to know that we are coming and we're trying to bring a freshness to the neighborhood. We're not bringing any disorder. I don't know what happened previously, but I would hope that you guys would look at us as, a different business. We're bringing some exciting things to your neighborhood. And so that's me. I'm Naisha. I just wanted to introduce myself. That's it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ed. It's nice to meet you guys all virtually. Naisha and Leonard had a lot of good things to say, so I won't piggyback on that. I've lived in the city now for about 15 years, I think. So my wife and I, we live over in Lindenwood Park in a home that we built, and then we have a couple rental properties over in this area. So again, at the end of last year, I guess towards the summer, is when Naisha and I started thinking about how we could grow and expand. And again, that's when we partnered up with Julia and moved into 3020. So it's our goal and vision to grow the space and to support each other and then to support the neighborhood. So again, our goal is to not bring a negative energy to the neighborhood or to the space. So our goal is to, again, leave a better impact on it than we found it. And we want to be good neighbors and we want to be good members of the community. So that's why we're here tonight. So again, we look forward when COVID calms down a little bit to, welcoming people into the space to see what we're doing. but really we don't want to be associated with any of the negative things that have happened in the past. Like Naisha and Leonard had stated, since we've moved in, we've had our licenses, we've had our permits. We haven't done anything to warrant anything to not be able to be good community members. So I'll leave it at that. And it was nice to meet everybody.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for everyone giving an introduction. We did have a few new people that jumped in. I see we have another neighbor. I see we have Christy and Wesley that jumped in as well. Hello. So I think, to kind of go through, like I said earlier, you had 3 floors, 3 businesses. So I'm going to just kind of start from the first floor and then move to the second floor and then end up with the third floor, which is the one that actually has the hearing coming up, because I do have a couple questions. And then if anyone else, if the neighbors had questions, or anyone from the neighborhood association had questions, then I think the best way to do that, so that we don't all talk over each other, would be to use the RAN option, which if you, for those not familiar with the Zoom, on the bottom of the participants, if you click on that, it has all the participants, and on the bottom right, it says raise hand. So if anyone does have something they want to ask a caller, then use that, and then we can keep it orderly. So I'll start with first floor. So first floor being Naisha and Ed, and the 3020 studio. So brand development, photography. So you did say that you are already doing photography in the space, but mostly it's kind of like marketing, brand development. And so my question there, what are your guys' hours that you plan on operating there? Is it a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday?
It's 7 days a week, and it's normally, I would say, 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. at the latest. Occasionally, with anything, if we're cleaning up, let's say something ends at 9. I think the latest I've been there after cleaning has been about 9:30. And I think those were the nights that we were installing the floor and things like that. But nothing super early. I have 3 small children. Naisha has 3 children as well. And we like to be home with our children at night as well.
Okay. And then, so if you have a client coming, is it something that, the client will basically be coming in, spending a couple hours with you doing photography, or is it more of like they're sending you information via email and then you're working with them that way? My question, I guess, is like how much walk-in sort of work is it versus mainly just online?
I'll speak to my part, and then I'll let Naisha speak to hers. But it's a mix. But I would say I'm actually in the space less than 10 to 12 hours a week. So again, a lot of what I do is done virtually on a laptop. And so I would say I'm in the space no more than 12 hours a week.
Okay. Naisha, I guess you're probably a little bit more if you're doing photography there and are doing the actual branding.
Yeah, I'm there just a little bit more than Ed. I just like to be at the space. I love it anyway. I mean, we put a lot of work into it. Why not be there? But I typically work on the weekends, honestly. During the week, I'm at home doing virtual school with my kids, like Ed said. And on the weekends, I usually am there for about 4.
You went into mute. You got muted, Naisha.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
Like I said, similar to Ed, I'm in there maybe just a little bit longer, but a lot of my clients I shoot them on location. So sometimes I do things in the studio. Other shoots are outdoors. I do families. I do newborns. It really just, it varies. But a lot of my communication, it starts through email, and then I meet the clients in person.
Okay, and Leonard, the tax work you're doing, is that are you having people kind of come drop off their information and head out, or you're not planning on having a waiting room with people lined up? Is it kind of drop
It's
off the
all-
information and go?
Yes, sir. It's all appointment based, number one. And then because we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and pushing for a lot of virtual appointments this year. So how we're meeting right now is how I envision meeting most of my clients this year. But in the previous years, my clientele ranges from on the low end about 40 taxpayers to a max I've ever done was like 96. And over the last couple of years, I've been ranging somewhere between that 50 and 70 range. So it's not an enormous thing, and it's something I've always done on the side. So always have another full-time job. This is sort of the side hustle. And so I kind of work it within my evenings or my weekends, and typically mostly the weekends.
Okay. All right, and then I don't know if anyone has any questions for the first floor business, which they've said that they all have occupancy permit now and all have their business license, so all of that is in order. So if no other questions for the first floor.
What's the occupancy permit? I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Jackie. Go ahead.
I have a question. What's the occupancy permit for on the first floor? Office space? Is that what it's legally for right now? Listed as on the first floor. First floor.
100%. The city ordinance for
a
zoning.
studio is not an office space.
Are you going to allow us to answer your question, or will you answer it for us?
I'm asking the tenants on the first floor, not you on the second floor.
I help pay rent on the first floor. And the answer to your question is the zoning is set in such a way that they can have an office space. They've also have tried to, and I've gone through this scenario, and I actually did the paperwork on their behalf because both of them are busy. I think the question comes down to, are they only a photography studio? And I guess that's where we took exception with the city, because this is a question that came up on the government level. So we had that conversation in the license collector's office. We also had that conversation in zoning with the building commission. And we even went back and forth with the zoning director. We even went back and forth with the building commissioner in and of itself. Suffice that to say, the Studio 3020 is more than photography. It's brand ambassadorship. Though photography is a integral part of what they are doing right now, it is not the only thing that they do. It'll be like telling Dan that his job as the alderman is only to conduct Zoom meetings. Well, we know the task of an alderperson is more than conducting Zoom meetings, though he's doing a lot of Zoom meetings right now. Ed and Aisha will do a lot of photography. They're not running from that. That's not something that they're hiding. It's the portion of renovating the space so that they can take pictures there. They also are telling you, though, that they meet most of their clients in the community at other places.
You guys skirted around the issue.
Right.
Can I go ahead and, I've got my hand raised. Can I go ahead and respond to that?
Sure, go ahead, Edward.
So yes, we do photography. However, I'm happy to share my taxes with the board, with Dan and the person in charge of the thing. 90% of my income does not come from photography. More than 90% of my income comes from consulting and branding that does not involve photography. So photography is a small percentage of what I do. So again, that would be like if Edward Jones, they have office space. When I go there to take portraits and headshots for them, they don't change their permit. So again, 90% of my business is not photography. So again, 90% of my business is from consulting, branding, and things like that. So again, photography takes up a small percentage of my actual business. So that's where that was. And again, that question was asked and answered down at City Hall.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here is that both Leonard and Edward went back and forth with the zoning building commissioner and the license collector to determine the best license to get and the best occupancy to get for the fact that you are 90% branding, marketing. So is that correct? That's what the building commission and the license department said and zoning said to apply for. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so then I think that
I'd
kind of
also like
clears up of if the building division and go ahead.
I'd also like to state that I also have a studio downtown at the Globe Building. And that's also where I do a majority of my work and a majority of the work that's been published. So again, there's an actual dedicated photo studio in the Globe Building that I also rent as well.
Okay, thanks. And and again, this is where some of the or is where a lot of the concerns have come from in the past of saying, oh, we have a license for one thing, and then we do an array of things that aren't technically allowed. Like Julia mentioned earlier, having a clothing retailer is not allowed without a conditional use. Having a massage business is not allowed without a permit, conditional use for it. So those are two things that happened before. That using an office space, a unapproved business was run using the office space title. So I just want to clear up that if you guys between the license collector, the building division, and zoning, that was what they said. This is the license to get. This is the approval to get. Then that's where we are with that. So. Is there any other questions for first floor before we jump up and get to hear about what Keisha's mixing up for dinner? All right. If not, Keisha, thanks for being here. Sorry, so many of these meetings overlap with dinner time and sitting, relaxing time after work. But I did have a question for you as well. So, you say you're doing the clothing design. I just want to make sure you're not doing any retail sales, right?
No, I have a website. So a lot of my communication starts with online. I have a heavy online presence. And so it's really about consulting what these people want me to bring to life. So I love my studio space. Obviously, it's very creative. It's fun. I wish I was there so I could show you guys around and what it looks like on the inside. But that's primarily where it starts from. It starts with a consultation to understand what custom piece it is that they're requesting. And then obviously I'm making it there instead of my basement at home.
Okay, so are you doing like a screen printing, or are you doing what sort of like I don't know, knitting sort of thing?
Hold on.
Oh. Yeah, I guess this is where if we were actually non-COVID, we could actually look at.
Yeah, I have some of my stuff here that got shipped in today. So I work a lot with like these decals, different types of design patches and stuff like that. I sew, I paint. I do a lot of artistic work. When you guys get off the call with us, feel free to Google the Woke brand and check out our website and check out all the fun, cool stuff that I do.
All right, wonderful. We'll look at Woke brand. And then, Keisha, what hours are you normally? Are you kind of after? another job?
No, I'm full-time. This is what
What's
I do
that?
full-time. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay. I said, no, this is what I do full-time and my hours
Yeah.
are 11 to 7. But since it's gotten cold and it gets darker faster, I have not been staying so late.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so it sounds like Woke Brand doing the design, doing the making articles of all types of stuff.
Yeah.
But then basically it's a shipping it online orders, shipping it out. So not having people coming in to resell. It's more of just create it and send it out via mail. So
Exactly. I do. I have a USPS account. I do a lot of shipping that way.
okay. Does anyone from the group neighbors have any questions for Keisha and for Woke Brand? If not, Keisha, I want to thank you for being here. And since you're obviously very busy, feel free to continue with dinner.
Okay, I'm just gonna go back on mute. I just
Sounds like the questions that I had about. All right, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, and now up to the third floor. So the third floor is what had the conditional use hearing. The third floor is the applicant was Miles Deep Studio. They had the original conditional use hearing on January 7th. At that hearing, there were still a lot of questions from neighbors, as well as some questions about the kind of conditions that were put. I know Leonard had some questions about a handful of those conditions as well. So the conditional use board went ahead and tabled it to give us the opportunity to kind of go over some of the concerns. So I will let, I guess, Wes, are you with Miles Deep or?
Yes, I'm the owner of Miles Deep Studios.
All right, I'll let you take it and give us just kind of like an explanation of what you're doing, and then we're probably gonna have a whole lot of questions for you.
Okay, awesome. First of all, hello everyone. How y'all doing this evening? Appreciate y'all for attending. What Miles Deep Studios is a lifelong hobby / business. I'm sort of go hand in hand. I've been into music for about 15, 20 years now. That's something that I've always been interested in. And I've been all different type of levels, artist, the engineer, the photographer, the all around person that's in. This is something I've stuck with. I actually got probably like a year and a half in school at Full Sail University of audio production. I'm probably like 7 months away, 10 months away from completing my bachelor's degree. But like I said, I've always had a studio inside my house or whatever. And since now I'm making lucrative money in my career-wise job, I wanted to separate the two where I can come and have my own space to really dig deep into my passion. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have clients. I have but most of my clients is back home in Tennessee where I'm from. So it's mostly digital, people from all genres sometimes hit me up and be like, hey, can you mix this or can you mix that or can you add this to this? So my expertise is more so of making the music sound good. I don't really, I'm really only free every other weekend to even be there. Like I'm not even there. And if it was some hours of operation for me, it would just be from noon to 5 on the weekends. That's basically it. I'm a maintenance man for Alpha Packaging and on Page. So I'm majority working almost 10 to 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday. That's pretty much my field, my career. maintenance, tool setting, crane operator. This is more so me using the space to free my plate, get away from things, really utilize my talents and things that I really like to do. That's more so it. You know, I moved to St. Louis about a year ago, and you know, since the pandemic hit, I was interested in a few clients or getting to know people around St. Louis, you know, to network or whatever like that. But since the pandemic hit, you know, it's just, you know, that pretty much crashed that situation. So really, I'm just, I have 6 children. I'm a family man. I really don't like playing any games. I'm straight to the point type of man. I really am a team player. I love the community. I love to be a part of it. I want to help the influence and the growth of that side of the community, especially the people who introduced me to the space. I couldn't ask for more. You know, the tenants, I barely run into them, but, you know, it's always been love. I don't know what happened previous. I wanted to delegate last time at the conditional hearing last time, but I had to go back to work. But I don't know exactly what's going on before me, but the business that I acquired with them, they didn't never even allow me to even come without a business license or get my permit and all these different type of things. So anything that was before me, I have no clue or understanding or no, you know, anything going on for that. And I don't want to be held accountable for something that's not of my doing, because I'm really, like I said, I believe we all in this, you know, pandemic in this time period right now, we all need to lean on each other to benefit the community the best way we need to, you know, and that's sticking together, you know, sharing the fellowship between each other and getting past certain situations, you know, that's all basically I'm standing for, you know.
Okay, thanks, Wes. So you did say you have gone to the license office, got the business license as a business.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And so, like I said, I have a handful of things because I did speak with one of the neighbors right next door who works 7 days a week in construction. So he gave me a handful of questions. The main thing, I think, hours of operation. You know, you said this at the hearing as well, that really this is just a Saturday and Sunday weekend thing for you. Normally it's kind of a noon to 5. His big concern was that he's in bed at 8:30 every night and he wakes up at 4:30 every day. So I wanted to see if you would be okay with adding the condition that your hours on that condition list, that the hours are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that way there is no chance of any sort of noise interruption with him waking up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Tim, if we can change that on our original list of conditions. So Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The other question, you know, you did a good job explaining that, you know, most of the stuff you get in is a digital track that you then come in and kind of engineer and work with. But the concern that the neighbor had, he said, well, recording studio to me sounds like there's going to be a drum kit and there's going to be horns and there's going to be guitar and speakers. That's not what you do, right? Or can you explain?
Sure, there's no problem. No, that is what I do, but as far as me dealing with that already, that's not something I'm going to do. Like I never had plans to deal with live instruments, and most of the genre of like rock and roll, pop, and rock and soft rock, those nature, I very rarely do a lot of mixing for them. but most of the time they record it wherever they're at and send it to me. And I do virtual mixing to make it sound like as if they was already there. So that right there is enough for me. And not only that, I've already soundproofed the whole entire room. So this, I don't even think no one hears me when I close the door and I'm still on the third floor. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
I really took
explain
it.
a little, yeah, can you tell us a little bit of what you've done for the soundproofing? Because I know at the hearing, you said that you've spent thousands of dollars on soundproofing. Is this through like bad insulation? Is it through, actual, like a, what do you call it? Like a studio box sort of? Can you explain a little bit of the soundproofing done?
Yes, actually, you can buy them in bulk orders or square footage or whatever, but it's about how thick you have the material. I use pretty much like 5-inch thick material. It's almost the most deadening sound it is. Some of the material may be 1 inch, but it's pretty much cancels out everything at minus 200 decibels and minus dB. It's really cancels out a lot of the area that I have it in. Like I can't have it over the window or whatnot, but I have it everywhere else around the walls. But what I do is buy them in bulk order, the soundproof material, and I'll get a non-stick stick coat on the wall, and I just place them in layers into a position where I get the max quality out of the sound. I would say you can randomly put them there, but if you randomly put them there, it just all depends on how much sound you're trying to kill. And I pretty much killed it because I'm a very private person. I've already was aware that I didn't want to disturb anyone, even in the building at the time that I needed to do anything. So I really took the measure to deaden the sound in the presence of the studio. But it's just a simple process, just ordering the material and placing it the way you need to cancel out as much sound as possible from bouncing back and forth from wall to wall.
And I haven't actually been on the third floor, but it looks like the third floor kind of is like a front room on Jefferson, and then like a middle room. So is the area that you've soundproofed the front room or the middle, which then would be kind of the back room?
Right. I think it's the back room if that's how you're looking at it.
The front of it's like when you walk up the staircase. It's the room in the back, but it's the front facade room, the one with the windows.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Jefferson side.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to pop in and say that when Wes moved into the building, that was one of my concerns because I don't like a lot of loud music, and I can't recall how long you've been there, Wes, but I've never heard you. I've never heard you upstairs when you're there. And I want you to stay there because you're a male figure in the building and I'm the only woman there, as you guys could pay attention to who's all in this building, and they've just told you the hours and stuff. So I'm there the most, and I kind of look forward to seeing your face or knowing that there's someone else in this building with me. South City, as crazy as the world is. So I just wanted to throw that out there to say that you don't bother me and I'm on the second floor.
Thanks for adding that, Keisha, because obviously the neighbor right next door, getting up at 4:30 in the morning when he saw a sign that said recording studio, he had ideas of, like I said, drum kits, horns, guitars, big. But so I think it's important to make that clear that you don't really have you don't have any of those. So So yeah, I guess those were the main questions that for your part of it. Does anyone else from the neighborhood have any question for Wesley and what his operation is? You can either jump in or raise your hand or either one.
I have general questions for the owner of the building.
Okay. Well, if no one else has questions for Wesley, Wesley is the one that actually had the conditional use hearing. So we can go on to kind of general questions, I guess, towards Julie or Julia, because I did have a couple other things for her as well. I guess I'll end. Wesley, did you get to see the letter?
Hello.
Yep,
I have
we hear you. Jackie,
questions on
we'll
the
go.
floor. I have questions for the third floor.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you say your hours are going to be what, 12 to 5 or something? So the lights are left on and people have been in there at 12 p.m., at 1 a.m., on Saturdays, Sundays, weekends. So so your hours going to change all of a sudden?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't, I haven't been there like in almost
the
a
lights
week.
on when you leave?
The bathroom light stays on the second floor majority of the time when I'm there.
Third floor that you're on.
Oh, yeah, I haven't been there.
Okay, well, the lights are on at all hours of the weekends.
It's not me. Well, I guess.
Oh, okay. See, this is the problem that we've had with this owner over the 3 years. It's not me. It's not my problem. It's not my tenants. It's not this. It's not that. This is the problem we've had.
Like I just stated in front of everyone, like I'm there only on the weekends. That's my hours of business. If I did decide to come at any given time, that I'm not really there to discuss business. Like I said, I'm more so using it as a personal space. But
okay. So 12 to 5 is not really what you're talking about then.
No, the question was, you asked me, was 12 to 5, was that the time I'm doing business? Yes, that will be the only time that I feel like doing business. But if I'm not doing no business, everything else out of that time is my personal time. But it's under my discretion if I choose to use.
This is a neighborhood where people live. I have lived here 17 years. I don't want a business operating at 1 o'clock in the morning in my neighborhood. And then I'm sure you don't want one in your neighborhood either.
That is correct.
That's our problem.
I mean, but that, like I just addressed, whatever that problem was before me. There's not one person here that's not, like I said.
You just said if I'm going to be there, it's my business.
I said if I choose
that's
to
the
be
problem
there
with this building.
Dan, may I make some comments as well here?
I'm not understanding.
Yeah, I see Edward has his hand up also. So I don't know if we want to go Edward first and then Leonard.
Leonard can go first.
I think that was one of those, the hours of operation. I can't remember the letter. I think I called out personally several of the conditions that were placed in a letter. And as you know, Dan, I've done this for many years and know how city government is done. And honestly, some of the conditions that were being placed on Wesley's studio, I felt were going beyond him and his particular business, was also holding him responsible for a time frame in which he never operated there, holding him responsible for past issues. And that was why I was objecting to the hours of operation, because it's not conceivable that if you're paying what we all pay to rent space in a building, that there will ever be a day that we won't come in there beyond the hours of which we operate. City Hall, for example, is open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. It is Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
Your place of business is not City Hall.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to address him as well. And I will do that after I make my comments. City Hall, I can go there right now and I can see people in the building. There could be.
Good for you.
As I'm stating, so it's conceivable that a person's hours of operation.
So you want a
versus
24-hour
the time-
operation. You want a 24-hour business at this location is what you're saying.
Yeah, let's try to keep this one speaker at a time here.
I am just saying that I didn't want, and I point out two things. One, if Wesley was agreeing to those conditions and that was something that he could live with, that was affecting his business only. That's what the hearing was for. I wanted that to be abundantly clear. I also wanted to be abundantly clear that if this man is saying his business hours are from 12 to 5, that he can be in his space at 6 o'clock in the evening. He could be in his space at 7 o'clock in the evening. It's also conceivable that from what I'm hearing from him and what I've gotten to know about him, that he's not doing anything to disturb the peace of the neighborhood. And I totally get people concerned that their peace will be disturbed. No one on this Zoom call has contributed to anyone's peace being disturbed in Benton Park, period. That's not an either and. That I don't care how people feel about the owner of the building. I don't care how people feel about past issues.
Julia is on the Zoom call, you're aware.
At this point, I'm not speaking for her, I'm speaking for myself, and I'm going to address you right after I make this sentence. So suffice that to say, there are a number of conditions being placed on this man and his business that has nothing to do with him personally, nor his business, and it's totally not fair, and it is not the way we should be governing. That's what I want to say about that.
It has to do with the building.
Excuse me. The gentleman that spoke on the hearing for City Hall, and this was not addressed at the city, and I do want the neighborhood to be aware. He made some very racially charged comments toward Julia. We all know that she's Asian American. We can all clearly see that. He made statements about her being somewhere in Vietnam. We don't do that. And that's going to get you resistance from
That was her response when we called her about a 3 a.m. gunpoint at my house. That was her response when we had heroin dealers coming out of her place. When she was operating a club, that's her response. Her response from the building owner was she wasn't in this country. That's a fucking problem, guy.
All right, so I don't have control over this, but Tim or Don both do, and if we
can I
orderly,
say something?
then it's gonna just have to mute people.
And that's
It's
the type of
about the
energy we are
building. It's
bringing.
about the building. We've been
Jackie,
lied to
no
for
one on
3
this call
years.
is bringing that except for the two of you guys, though. Y'all do that. We don't do that.
No,
And when it's happening, I'm not going to sit back and shut my mouth.
we've
It's
been
not
years.
acceptable. It's very nasty, unacceptable behavior.
And
And
neither
no
am
one
I.
should be operating like that. And no one has brought that energy to anyone in the neighborhood at any point. And we're not going to
For
sit
3
back and allow it to
years,
happen
no
to
one
us
ever did
because of
that.
how people feel about the past. Now, if y'all
That
want to
is
have
correct.
a conversation with Julia, I'm getting you in there, Wes. If y'all want to have a conversation with Julia about the past, about things that she dropped the ball on, then by all means, put her on the phone and y'all have a conversation with her. But do not hold this man's
It's gonna stop.
business hostage because of the way y'all feel about Julia. Has nothing to do with him, has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with our businesses, but our businesses are what's being
It has
caught in the middle of all of that. And that is, excuse me, that is
You.
unacceptable, and we will resist that. And that's why we will get our licenses the way we want our licenses to go. No one in the neighborhood can dictate that, but we can definitely find ways to be good neighbors, which we are good individuals, very good-hearted individuals, very lovely people. But we're not getting that same energy from some people in the neighborhood. And I just wanted that to be very known that no one here should be held accountable for the past. No one here should be held accountable because neighbors do not like Julia personally. And we all, since we've been in the building, have never contributed to one legitimate issue, not one. And that's what I want to be known on the call. And I am begging the neighborhood association that as you guys write your letters of support, which I'm hoping that's the result, and Dan, as you write your letter of support, that it is done in such a way that you approach each individual and each business for who and what they have presented and not the past. That's what I'm asking. And that's where I took exception when I saw certain conditions being placed on him in that letter. It wasn't fair. It's not right. It was not right, Dan. And I've been around long enough to know that was not right. It's not.
And even though, to be honest with you, I know that everyone or the people who has tension against Julia have a lot of speculation, even when it comes to me. But all I like, even though I know it's wrong that you guys sort of are putting a boundary on the limit that I can, let's say that I'm not a maintenance man and I have to work full time to make a living for my 6 children. You know what I'm saying? How am I going to get on the path of you guys' page where it's in the light of you guys to want to bless it? You know, you're already showing me for this short window. But what I'm saying is, I'm willing to comply all the way. I actually love the community. You know what I'm saying? Regardless, I'm new to St. Louis, and I love the community, and I want to be a part of the community. But I do not. It's not going to look good on the city of St. Louis impression for me that you guys are going to hold me accountable for some issues that I have not or nowhere near aware of. Now, as far as what goes on before me, I would like we really need to squash all that. But even though I'm still willing to bend the fold for you guys' leverage or whatever you need be to make this right. And that's what needs to go on here. Nothing else.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When I listen to everyone speak,
Go ahead, Keith. Ben.
when I listen to everyone speak, I hear specific questions about business hours. With it being an incubator space for small businesses, clearly everybody runs their businesses at different hours, but is there not a medium of some sort where we all, or neighborhood association, whoever makes that final say for what should be a start and an end time on this particular building to establish a good rapport going forward? It seems like everyone wants the same thing, meaning a good rapport going forward. So if the hours, the woman who's on the call referencing lights, the first thing I thought of was, how many times have I left out rushing to get home to my family and left a light on? That was the number one thing that came to mind. The second thing is, I thought about how many times I've left something at work and had to go back to go pick it up. And so if the hours is what where we're at right now, can we agree on a start time and an end time for this building? What's appropriate, what's acceptable for the tenants who are now occupying it at the current moment? And then going forward, Julia, maybe you can then implement a certain time frame to whoever else it is that comes into this space that may rent out that other space on the second floor, whatever that may be, because it sounds like people are worried about things that we ourselves as business owners don't typically have full control over. We entrepreneurs.
Right.
If you have ever worked for yourself, I'm still speaking. If you have ever worked for yourself, you know that you work longer hours than you've worked for anybody in your life. And as a full-time entrepreneur, I know firsthand that I get less sleep working for myself sometimes. So business hours does not necessarily speak to the light of when I stop working completely, you know? So if in his space. I get it because it's a studio. You're worried about music. I am too. I'm on the second floor and I don't want to hear that shit. I just want to be frank. So if it's not bothering me and I'm in the same building and ours is what the conversation is now gearing towards, how can we get on one accord with the hours from a start to a finish? It's no reason to be disrespectful. It's no reason to keep sitting here allowing time, our time. This is life. It's valuable, people. If you ain't got nothing else to do right now, I'm sorry, but many of us do. And we're taking out the time to address issues, both past, current, and hopefully going forward, we can eliminate them. But I just wanted to ask that question to the two people who are on the call representing the neighborhood association. Is that not something that we can implement?
Right.
Thanks, Keisha, and that's what we're trying to work towards here. Is the fact that any business, and Leonard, you know this as well as anyone on this because of working for city government, any business that comes in and requires a conditional use hearing, we get to through a hearing and really through the neighborhood association recommending to the hearing, we get to say what are approachable hours. Now, like you said, just because your business hours are 9 to 5, that doesn't mean that at 6 or 7 o'clock you're trying to put all the loose strings together. But what we can say is that door can't be open and customers coming in and out 24/7. So that's what the hours represent, and that's what we're trying to get to. And the other issues of the noise, which we've worked through. I have on my list of a couple other things more directed towards the building for Julia, such as parking, such as the trash pickup, which are other things that we get to put on this conditional use hearing. But those aren't specific to the 3 businesses; those are specific to Julie. But thank you, Keisha. That is what we're trying to what can we accept here to move forward?
Okay.
So, because I got a lot to do too. We all do. So if there's, Edward, you've had your hand up a long time. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so really, I just want to second what everybody has said, and I want to go and state that, again, myself, Naisha, Leonard, and Keisha, we all have our permits. We have our licenses. We're here to support Daryl because we feel that he's a good asset to our building and to the city. And really, there's a couple people on here that we're here to support him and help him against those people. Because we don't feel that they let him get his voice. So I'm going to state that again. So myself, Naisha, Leonard, and Keisha have been in the space and we haven't had any issues that have caused anything to happen. The only issue that we had was, in the process while Naisha and I were renovating the space, there were 2 days that myself, an electrician, and 2 off-duty firefighters were there all day. And I'm going to call it out. So myself and all the people that were working, we were all white. So we were working there for 2 days. Plenty of cops passed us. Never an issue. That Tuesday night, Naisha went up there. It was just after dark with her 2 children. And a neighbor had called the police because they said that the building was condemned and she shouldn't be there. So again, I was there for 2 days, 8 until dark almost, working. Nobody had any issues. Naisha was there and one of our neighbors, somebody probably on this call, called the police on her. So to me, that's an issue. So that's why we're here
to be fair, Edward, we do, and to be fair, we do have a lot of neighbors because, like I said, I live on the 3000 block of Indiana. We have a lot of neighbors that aren't home 7 days, 10 days, and then they come home and then they see someone in a building that they thought was condemned, which we've made it clear that all the permits are in place, all the occupancy permits are in place. We've gone through the issue with the licensing to make sure everyone is licensed. So yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Edward, but to be fair, there's a lot of people that travel for work.
We're talking about a 15 to 20 minute time difference from when I was gone.
Yeah,
So again, but I just want to impress the fact that nobody in the building currently has had any issues.
Well, I have to speak to that because when the pandemic first kicked off last year, there were several calls made when the building was shut down altogether. I myself personally went 17 days without touching the door, scared in fear of catching COVID, not knowing where my next dollar is going to come from. So no one was there. There was no one there. But yet during that time frame, several calls happened, several nuisance calls happened. There were no bookings at the event space. I was really the only tenant using the space, and it was really weird. So it's like, the calls and the accusations are clearly false. They're happening at times where we're not even using the building. Then you turn around, and when we are using the building, there's a clear indication that the complaints are specific to race. And that's what's unacceptable, because at this point, what is a community without color? What does it look like?
Rural Missouri.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the reason that we're having this call here is because, the Jefferson is a commercial strip. The building is a commercial building. Being a commercial building, it goes through different rules with the city, and conditional use hearings and zoning are part of that process. So I think if there's really no other questions for Wesley, which was in regards to sound space, and I said this a little bit at the hearing, but just to kind of clear it up with Wesley or anyone that was on that hearing, I do have 3 recording studios in the ward, one on Lemp, one on Cherokee, 2 on Cherokee, and 1 on Lemp. We had one of them we had to take back to the zoning because it had where it would be 1 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden they'd have 10 people show up to jam and record, and it was in a residential area. So we had to put these similar conditions on them of, these are your hours of operation, and if people are playing music and disturbing neighbors after those hours, that can get their license revoked. So that's kind of, my history with recording studios is saying, like, I've gotten a lot of calls about them. So I'm glad, Wes, that you made it very clear that that's not the sort of studio you have. I'm glad that Keisha has made it clear that as a business owner below you, she has never heard you and doesn't want to hear you. So she'll probably be the first one to complain if you're getting too loud before we hear it as neighbors. So if there's no other stuff for Wesley, then there are a few things that are on the zoning or on the conditional use conditions that we have placed that I do want to go over, starting with parking. The building has 2 spaces in the back. If there's 3 businesses there, I would like to suggest and put this into the conditions for the place that the 2 spaces that behind the building, maybe Julia, you designate one of those spots for, whatever, one for Aisha, one for Keisha, but then the other parking, use the Jefferson, the commercial. Obviously, streets are public, they're free. You should be able to park wherever you want, but as a commercial building, we often get to say not to use residential streets for the employees. So, Julia, are you fine with putting something in there? And I guess the other business owners, are you fine with putting something in there about parking?
I have no objection to it. So you're just saying designate the space.
One other issue.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you're saying just designate the spaces in the back for some specific tenants, and then make it clear that other people use Jefferson instead of parking in any residential area?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, yep.
Then another issue that I just want to bring up is trash. A couple of our neighbors can point out the number of times from the past that that trash became an issue because the tenants, and sometimes it wasn't the tenants of the building, sometimes it was just people helping clean, walked down the alley and threw it in the first dumpster they found, which happens to be a yard waste dumpster. And then I and a few of my neighbors spent a lot of time digging trash out of yard waste dumpsters. So just please make it clear to anyone that's in the building and anyone that might be helping take the trash out that Julia does have her commercial trash can behind the building. And hopefully I won't get calls about building trash in the yard waste. And when this happened, I got a lot of, well, maybe it's one of the other neighbors, but it was bags of balloons and plates and things that obviously went with the event space. So, so just make that clear. Another issue that I got a lot of calls about that I think is important for everyone to know. What's that? Okay. Well, the other thing that we need to make sure is clear. In the past, there have been issues with parking on the sidewalk in front of the building. If the parking is tight, people just park right in front of the building on the sidewalk. Absolutely none of that. That is something that's going to get the cops called on you. The second thing is we had in the past, we had people that would park in the alley and block the alley. When I would call or go over, they say, oh, we are just unloading, loading or unloading. Per city laws, you're allowed to park for loading and unloading for 15 minutes. Beyond that, you're blocking the alley. So that's something that I just want to throw out there because it was a problem in the past. Don't park on the sidewalk and don't park in the alley thinking that there's nowhere else to go. I'm only going to run in for 30 minutes. It's going to be okay. Those were two things that were a big issue before. So get that out there. And then my final thing I had on my list was there was a time where there were tents set up in front of the building and kind of like sidewalk sales going on. I do not want to have sidewalk sales randomly pop up. That's another thing that we normally put into our conditions. If someone wants to if you want to do some special event, you actually have to go through the Board of Public Service to get a permit to block public right of way. So that is something that happened a couple of times. And from my understanding, it did not go over well. So just make that clear that if you, if you think, oh, it's a beautiful day, let's go ahead and throw a tent outside and have a sidewalk sale, you have to go through a permit for that. You have to get permission. You have to get okay from the Board of Public Service to block public right of way. So, so those were, I think that might be my list. And I'm going to really quickly say, if any of the tenants have any questions for me, I'd be happy to take them before we kind of open it back up to Julia for building issues. So.
Alderman.
So I see.
Yeah, I don't have the hand raised feature.
Go ahead.
I would just ask a couple of things. It sounds like what you just said are very reasonable expectations that people are parking on Jefferson. There are neighbors that park in our spaces in the back of the building. We, as a courtesy, do not call to get their cars towed. I don't know the best way to communicate with folks because it is a sign there that says parking is for 30, I want to say 3018, 3020. The sign says that on the sign. 15 minutes for loading and unloading, very reasonable. I would probably have more questions if I saw the actual letter that was being submitted or the previous one so that I can pull out a couple of them that I just felt were very, very unfair to Daryl in his business. My only other thing that I would say was, as something to be helpful, for the business owners. We're probably getting them connected to some of the city resources that exist. I know SLDC does facade grants, and the city actually was putting out some additional grants for COVID that the folks on the call may not have been aware of. And then as far as how to properly go about getting that permit for the sidewalk sales, if that was to happen again, like I don't sell anything on sidewalks, but I do see these things happen in Soulard or in on Cherokee quite a bit, and they're usually not a big deal and are embraced by the community. So I think everyone here has shown a willingness to do things by the book so that we're not running into issues of the past. But there is also a learning curve. I've worked for the city, so I know, but I don't expect everyone on the call to sort of know some of the loopholes or the things that the city may require. So it'd be helpful to also have that conversation with some of those resources.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to go through. So the first thing you said about, well, let's see here. The first thing you mentioned about the permitting, all permitting goes through the streets department. So if that were something you want to do, the streets department, they have an online, just go to the City of St. Louis website. There's an online form you can fill out for any sort of blocking public right of way, whether that's a block party or whether that's doing a sidewalk tent for a day. So, so that's streets department. The first thing you said was you'd like to see the conditions before they go through. So Tim Mulligan I've seen him diligently writing down all of the things that we've been talking about. So before, essentially after this conversation, the building review committee, maybe the Benton Park board will approve or disapprove or approve a set of conditions, and probably, the board will have to vote on it, and then we will be able to see those prior to them going to the next hearing. So, and then there was a third thing you said, the business, the SBA stuff. So city facade grants, they still do them. However, they have put them in areas, not Benton Park. They're putting them in areas that we're trying to develop commercial districts, and where I would agree that we can use all the commercial district help we can get. The city does not see it that way. They are putting those funds into specific targeted areas that were not included in. However, the Benton Park Neighborhood Association Facebook page, anytime we get updates about COVID grants, like when the city had the $5,000 small business grant, I let our marketing person know those things, and we're very good at putting those out through our BPNA STL web is our Facebook page. So anytime any new grants or small business assistance available through COVID, we follow that, and we'll if it's available, we put it out there. So so I hope those answer those three. I'm also going to go ahead and put in this chat my personal cell phone and my email so that everyone on this has a way to contact me, and feel free to contact me whenever. I think one of the things I saw through a text here was that some of the neighbors had asked if the business owners would be willing to share their contact information, so that we don't, so that one, they don't have to always call me to call Julia, because I have called Julia when it was 4 o'clock in the morning and a party's still going on. And I don't like doing it as much as the neighbors don't like being woken up to do it. So I don't know if everyone wants to go ahead and share their information. That would be great. So I am going to go ahead and I guess we have Jackie's hand and Don's hand up. So let's start with Jackie.
Okay. I would just like to say, don't put that racist bullshit on me. None of you people have any idea. Don't even bring that up. You don't know me. You have no idea. Okay. This is only about the last 3 years of being lied to by the building owner. So there's no reason for us to believe that we're being told the truth now. Okay. There's no reason for us to believe it's going to change now. It hasn't changed in 3 years. No reason. Okay. So stop trying to make issues where they're not. All we're going on is issues that happened to us in the neighborhood for 3 years. That's our problem. Has nothing to do with race.
I think Julia put her contact information up there so that you guys can have that
I have
conversation.
nothing to say to Julia. Nothing. She 3 years ago, sir, I appreciate you. I appreciate your sentiments. But you know what? My only comment to you and the other tenants in the building is she's going to screw you over too, just like she screwed us over. So good luck.
Thank you. And it is the year 2021. And we are all my age or older probably on the call. And in 2021, I think everyone on this call should know it is very unacceptable to use the phrase "you people" when referring to people of color. This
oh
is
my God, that's what I was talking about. I meant you people as in the tenants of the building.
Sure. However,
Seriously.
Ed pointed out what he wanted to point out with regard to race. I pointed out what I wanted to point out with regard to the Vietnamese comments, and I am not going to be silent in 2021. And I'm going to call it every time I hear it, I see it. It's unacceptable. Don't use you people when referring to us. And that's not saying anything. I'm not calling you anything, Jackie. I just want you to know what you all brought to that call. With Daryl's conditional use hearing was not acceptable. And it was.
How is you all different than you people? I'm saying, how is that different? How is that different?
Because you people has a connotation the same way as Missouri has a connotation.
No, it refers to 3018, 3020 tenants. That's what it refers to.
And I'm just using it as a teachable moment that when referring to people of color in a conversation, it's unacceptable to use the phrase "you people." But we all knew that before I said it 2 seconds ago. Everybody on this call knew that. But you chose to use that phrase that way, and it's unacceptable. And I'm not here to tell you how to use your language. I'm just telling you personally, for me, when I hear those types of things in the year 2021, I will not be silent about it. I will call it. I will tell it every single time. That was the only thing I wanted to say about that. As far as that whole little situation with race goes. Otherwise, I again hear a certain willingness, a great willingness on behalf of the owners of the building and the owners of the businesses to take and what has happened in the past and make something better out of it. And I know how neighborhoods are. I see the leadership from the neighborhood association. This is very similar in LaSalle Park. There's usually that 3 to 5 people that are always there that you can depend on who are going to handle the business. And then there's usually that 1 or 2 neighbors who, for whatever reason, always take issue.
Because you haven't been here for 3 years. You don't know. You don't know what we've been dealing with for 3 years. You have no idea.
Can you give us an opportunity to have 1 year? Because we're almost there. Yeah, in August, it'll be a year. And I think you're going to see a whole new behavior from the people on the call. Give us that opportunity. I'm saying put Julia to the side and what's happened in the past and the way you guys feel about her and give us an opportunity. And I'm also saying with the opportunity that we've had since August, there has not been one legitimate issue. And I'm telling you, give us to this August, there will not be one legitimate issue. We're not here to be issue bringers. We're here to do the right thing and let us be those good neighbors. Give us that opportunity. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, thanks, Leonard. That's why we're all here right now, is to say, how do we move forward and make sure that we have issues that have been a problem in the past addressed, and make sure that we don't have to worry about that again. Communication is the first step. So, that's why I'm that's why I'm on this. That's why we're all putting our phone numbers in the side, and that's why we're taking the willingness here to say, you know, I can't agree with Jackie more that it was a pain of what we went through. And I know from talking to Julia that there was a lot of misunderstanding of, I even met a number of times, met with them when they showed me licenses that they had and they didn't happen to be the right ones. Well, none of us knew that. So, you know, there's a learning curve with getting through City Hall, and we all know that. So that's why we're having these discussions of what is it you intend to do, making sure that the licensing is right, making sure that the conditional use hearing is done. So,
And is it okay if I speak on?
Hop in, Julia.
Yeah, great.
And then I see Don has his hand raised also, and then I see that we've been here an hour 40 minutes, and I think I feel comfortable with what I've heard tonight of how to move forward with approving a business. So I'll let Julia say some words, I'll let Don say some words, and then we all have writing down. So thank you.
Great. Well, it's too bad Jackie left because I was trying to address her. But yeah, I mean, to the points of, you know, things that have happened in the past, like I take full responsibility for those. You know, I'm not trying to deny them. A lot of people have called me a liar. And, you know, I'll come clean. Like there's nothing about those complaints that you mentioned that I'm going to deny as not happening or anything. So yeah, I'll take responsibility for those, and any fault that came out of that was my fault. That being said, like I want nothing more than to be able to move forward and to have a, you know, to be able to build the trust back and to make sure, again, like many people have said, none of these tenants were part of any of those things. They shouldn't bear any responsibility for those issues. And, you know, if there are specific things, because what I'm hearing, you know, from the neighbors is just repeated insults, personal attacks, racist comments, like, you know, that to me is not acceptable. But if there are specific things that they want to see from me, to, you know, assure them that things are going to be different in the future, like I'm happy to do those. And if the first step of that is, you know, taking responsibility for the things that have happened in the past, like I'm happy to do that. You know, short of them just wanting me to leave the, you know, sell the building and leave the neighborhood, like I'm not doing that. You know, that's not an option. But anything that allows us to move forward and to actually like resolve some of these issues in the future, I am here, you know? And so, yes, like this is my number, this is my email. Like many have said, I would much rather if people take issue with me specifically to address me specifically. And I live, you know, I don't live in Benton Park, but I live in, you know, 5 minutes away. And any issues, like, please call me instead of calling the police. Please call me instead of calling Dan. You know, like if there are issues, like I'm here to address them. So that was part of what I think what led to so much misunderstanding in the past is that, you know, whether it was that people felt like they couldn't contact me or they didn't wish to contact me, there was a lot of miscommunication that happened, you know, in trying to go through Dan to come to me and all that. You know, I think part of the way that we could address that is for people to reach out to me directly if they have issues, and that let's work together to solve them. You know, let's not, you know, do this he said she said stuff. And yeah, a lot of the issues you mentioned, you know, with the parking and trash and all the things, like most of those things, 90% of those things were related to the event space specifically. And as we've mentioned multiple times, there's no event space, you know, there's no longer events happening. The first floor is occupied by a business. So I'm hoping that that alone will reduce a lot of the issues that have happened. And, you know, with regards to parking and things, like, yes, well, you know, I'm glad that all of our tenants are here. We are clearly showing that we're, you know, willing to take an hour and 40 minutes out of our Wednesday night to be here to resolve this issue. And, you know, a lot of the points that you made, Dan, were well taken. And, you know, just make sure that we're all on the same page. This is being recorded. So, so yeah, so that's all I really have to say about it. Anything that has to do with, you know, us moving forward and finding some agreeable terms to everybody, like Keisha said, and making sure that we can, you know, all inhabit the space peacefully. I'm all for that and all for, you know, willing to work with it. And, you know, again, if you have something to say to me, say it, you know. You don't have to necessarily bring it to all these people who are, you know, unrelated to the conversation. If you, you know, if Jackie, for example, sent me this message, while everybody else was speaking privately. And I'm just going to put it publicly in the chat because that's unacceptable and childish behavior, frankly. So that's kind of where I'm at. And you know, whatever next steps we need to settle on, I'm down for them.
Cool. I see Lightning has her hand up to say a word, and then I really would like for Don to wrap this up. We all have things to do, and I think we've had a good discussion on what we would like to see for the building and what we would like to see as neighbors for the tenants, and yeah, and you've all agreed to them. So I thank you. So, Christy.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I am in partnership with Julia, and I have listened thoroughly. I appreciate all the tenants that have spoken up, and I just want to take a moment because I was definitely a part of when we were doing events in the space, and I had a lot of communication going with Dan during that time. So I just want to wholeheartedly apologize for us not operating correctly before. And all of this, and everybody that has spoke up, every single issue that has come to light or has been discussed on this call tonight, it has all started with in the past, oh, back then, year ago, blah, 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 you know, and we get it. And I am in solidarity with Julia that we are taking that, being accountable for the mistake that we did make. So I wholeheartedly apologize to all the powers that be on this call for us operating incorrectly. But I do want it known that once it was brought to our attention, talking about instantly, when it was brought to our attention, everything as it pertained to doing events was shut down. We got everything. We went there. We found out what needed to be done, what needed to be put in place, everything so that we could operate legitimately and be on the up and up with nothing wrong, you know? So the dumpster issue, all of that, these are everything, any complaint that has come about is all, everybody starts their conversation with in the past. And I just, again, we can't turn back the hands of time. We can't face what happened, but we can go forward. And that's all we want to do because we are in compliance. We're transparent. Our phone numbers are available. We are all about the community. We just want to heal, let go of the past, and let's move forward. And let's all be together as a neighborhood and come together because it is very immature. We're all intelligent, college-educated individuals on this phone call. So it does not need to come to piss and moan and huss and puss and all of that. That's not adult conversations. And everybody on this call is an adult. So I just want to see us, I accept full responsibility for the issues we had in the past, but we want to move forward and we're not in the past. And very clearly, it is 2021. We're trying to move forward and nurture each other and build a stronger community.
Thank you, Christy. And yeah, I think that's what we're doing right now. And I appreciate everyone that is on this call to say, let's move forward here. So Don, can you wrap it up for us?
Yes, happy to. I have one question on a substantive issue, since we do have to write a conditional use letter recommending. So I heard an unclear thing that I'd like to clarify with some of the neighbors. It looks like only a neighbor identified as Moto G Power is still on because Jackie must have taken off. But the question is, there seemed to be some concern about hours of business versus access to the building and ability to use your space that you pay money for. So I would like to understand how people are seeing that. It just, my own editorial on it is that the hours of business refers to people coming in and out of the building who are customers. I believe if you have a lease and you are a business person, you're allowed to go into your space when you want to go into your space. I don't know that it's fair to put conditions on you may never enter the building after 8 p.m. or so. That's my own take on it. I think that needs to be clarified. I think I know what you all who are tenants are going to say, but I do want to think about it with anybody who's been critical in the past, understanding that, you know, when Jackie said, well, I see lights on at midnight, if that was a house and your neighbor lived there, their light would be on at midnight. It's not a crime, and it's not a deviation from a normal use of a space, whether it's a business or an apartment. So that's what I think. I just think that should be clarified by the people who are involved in the past controversy and the law. So if Dan, if you know about that, or if any neighbors want to say anything about that, could we clarify that?
Yeah, I mean, we're going through. So because it's commercial space, we get the opportunity to say hours of operation just being when they're seeing clients. Now, you know, if your hours of operation are until 5 o'clock and your clients are gone at 5 o'clock, yeah, you can still be there finishing up your work. You can still be there, you know, whatever, mopping the floor, taking the trash out, doing all the things that you do as small business owners, doing payroll, doing books. But clients can't be coming in and out. So that's the clarification on hours of operation.
Fine. So we are not stating, it sounded a little bit like somebody, one of the neighbors was saying she didn't think it was okay for anyone to just physically be in the building other than after business hours. So if that's not the case, neighbors should understand that's the way the law is or the way the rules are. Okay, so if we clarify that, I think that would be important. And I see most of the tenants shaking their heads because that, I think, is your understanding of it, right? So, all right. So listen, we've been on for a couple hours. You all have been very patient, and you've made your case very clearly that it ain't your fault. and Julia and her partner appear to have been quite willing to take responsibility if things go forward under conditions that everyone can agree to. I think that would be wonderful. So if anybody has anything, you know, real brief to just end up with, I'm good with that. Ed, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to, Moto G said something in the chat. I know myself, Naisha, and Leonard will take responsibility and accountability for anybody that happens to be in our space that he's worried about. And I'm sure that everybody else is. So to ease his concern, again, we're not an event space, but I know I will take personal responsibility and accountability for anybody that happens to come in to business with me. So he doesn't need to worry about that. The type of business that we're in has nothing to do with, I guess, the issues that he's had in the past. So I just want him to know that he can call me if there's an issue with people that I bring. My phone number's in the chat, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you, and thanks to Moto for clarifying that you're not making an issue out of people literally walking into the building other than during specific hours. That's helpful. So
Hey, Donald, I have just one
okay,
thing.
you should go.
Make sure that Dan, that you are communicating to the neighbors everything that we've discussed today, because I feel like across the board there has been a lot of miscommunication. I think that's the basis of this whole thing. Like, people haven't had time to sit down and talk with one another and work through the issues. I just want to make sure that during the meetings we're communicating with the neighbors that the building is not condemned. We all have our licenses, and we're supposed to be there. We're happy to be there. And like we've said in the past, you know, I would love to come before the neighborhood association just to meet the neighbors so that they can put a name with the face and know who Studio 3020 is. So.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, because I live on that block, I'm in constant contact with the immediate neighbors. And I did send the information for our monthly meetings to Leonard, and I think it would be wonderful if you guys came to one of our monthly neighborhood association meetings to just introduce yourself and say, you're new business owners in the neighborhood and, wanted to get to know us. And so I look forward to having you guys come say hi at one of our general meetings. So.
Mm-hmm. And P.S. we can put on our website anything that might be helpful here to let people know that the building is now a good spot with good tenants, that it's not condemned. I don't know, whatever might be helpful, we could discuss that, but we'll try to do whatever we can to smooth it down from the bad stuff in the past, because you folks are clearly not going to be any kind of problem. So thanks. That's all good. And yeah, please come check out our neighborhood meetings. Those of you, if you have a business in the neighborhood, you're part of the neighborhood. So you're welcome to be here, even if you don't live here. And we'll send you an invite.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I know 2 hours is a little bit long, but I really do appreciate everyone listening to the concerns that we've had. So, so thank you, everyone. And Tim, I will allow you as the host to go ahead and log us off.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, folks.
All right. Thank you.